Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's not satisfied yet with the terms of a deal being negotiated with Iran. His comments come after Iranian state television said the draft deal with Washington included lifting U.S. naval restrictions on Iran and reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The Bank of Korea has kept its key interest rate steady, marking the bank's 8th straight rate freeze since May last year. The decision appears to reflect concerns over inflation, slowing growth, and geopolitical risks. Starting today, Korea enters a 6-day polling blackout period, ahead of the June 3rd local elections and parliamentary by-elections. 2-day early voting is set to begin tomorrow, allowing voters to cast their ballots at any early voting station across the country, regardless of where they're registered. U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday he's not yet satisfied with the terms of a potential deal with Iran and stressed that Washington is not discussing the easing of sanctions on Iran. Our Cho Young-eun starts us off.
Speaking during a White House cabinet meeting on Wednesday, U.S. President Donald Trump said he is not satisfied yet with the terms of a proposed deal with Iran. Trump also said he would not be rushed into a deal and that Iran's efforts to outweigh him would not work, adding he does not care about the midterms.
Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job.
His remarks followed a report on Iranian state television on the same day that gave details of a draft memorandum of understanding that included the lifting of U.S. naval restrictions on Iran, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and the withdrawal of U.S. forces from the Gulf. The White House dismissed the reported outline as complete fabrication. Trump also said that under a potential framework deal with Tehran, the Strait of Hormuz would open immediately and would not be controlled by any country.
Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters.
Also at the meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio appeared to address the absence of any mention of Iran's nuclear program in the report on Iranian television, by reiterating that Iran will never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon.
I think there's been some progress and some interest, and we'll see over the next few hours and days whether progress could be made.
Trump also rejected reports that he was considering easing U.S. sanctions on Tehran or allowing Russia or China to take Iran's highly enriched uranium. Cho Young-eun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the Korean government says evidence points to Iran-developed missiles in the recent attack on the Damu, a Korean ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Seoul is now demanding an apology from Tehran. Our Oh Seung has the latest.
Iranian anti-ship missiles were likely used in the attack that set a Korean vessel ablaze in the Strait of Hormuz earlier this month, prompting Seoul to lodge a strong protest and request an apology from Tehran. At a briefing Wednesday, First Vice Foreign Minister Park Yun-ju unveiled the results of a government probe into the attack on the Damu. The Korean vessel was anchored near UAE waters inside the Strait of Hormuz on May 4th, when it was struck twice by unidentified aerial objects. The government says debris recovered from the vessel included components resembling an Iranian-made Tolu-4 turbojet engine, along with markings believed to be from an Iranian manufacturer. The warhead was also found to resemble those used in Iran's Noor or Qadr anti-ship missiles. Officials added that unexploded high-explosive material was identified, while the fuselage debris was painted sky blue, matching the coating and color used on Iran's Noor series anti-ship missiles.
Circuit board debris is estimated to have been produced around 20 to 30 years ago, and based on that production period, it is highly likely to be an older model Noor missile. Technical analysis concluded the unidentified aerial objects were highly likely to be Iran-developed Noor series anti-ship missiles. The probe also found the projectiles approached from the stern, while the vessel was anchored with its stern facing roughly 156 degrees toward Iran.
Park said Seoul would summon the Iranian ambassador, convey a strong protest, and demand an apology, along with responsible measures to prevent a recurrence. With Tehran having denied involvement, Pak said it remains difficult to determine whether the attack was intentional or to identify the exact actor behind it. Still, a military official said there appeared to be an intention to cause damage.
While we cannot definitively determine the attacker's intent, from a naval and operational standpoint, firing 2 missiles instead of 1 strongly suggests an intention to inflict damage.
The ambassador arrived at the foreign ministry at around 6:20 p.m. and as he left, denied all allegations, saying Iran had not been involved. Seoul says diplomatic communication with Tehran continues as it works to ensure the safety of Korean nationals and vessels and the free and safe navigation of ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Seong, Arirang News.
Israel has issued a sweeping evacuation order for all residents in southern Lebanon, declaring the region a combat zone as fighting with Hezbollah intensifies. The warning comes amid escalating airstrikes, mounting civilian casualties, and growing concerns over mass displacement. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
The Israeli military has warned all residents in southern Lebanon to evacuate the area, declaring the entire region a combat zone following days of intensified airstrikes targeting the militant group Hezbollah. It marks the first time Israel has issued such a broad evacuation warning since U.S. President Donald Trump announced a ceasefire in Lebanon in April. In a social media post on Wednesday, a spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces instructed residents to move north of the Zarani River, saying military operations would continue across southern Lebanon. The Israeli military has recently stepped up strikes on cities and villages in southern Lebanon after Hezbollah launched explosive drone attacks targeting Israeli troops and northern Israeli communities. On Wednesday, Israeli forces struck the southern Lebanese city of Tyre, just hours after issuing warnings of military action. Airstrikes also hit the city of Nabateh, several nearby villages, and areas further north in the Bekaa Valley. Lebanese health authorities say more than 3,200 people have been killed since the conflict sharply escalated in March. The death toll includes hundreds of women and children, along with healthcare workers. Iran has insisted that the fighting along Israel's northern border be included in any formal ceasefire agreement, while Israel has pushed to keep the Hezbollah conflict separate from broader negotiations. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
On the economic front, the Bank of Korea has announced that its benchmark interest rate will remain at 2.5%. Today's decision came at the first Monetary Policy Board meeting chaired by the newly appointed Governor Shin Yeon-sung and marks the central bank's 8th straight rate freeze since May last year. Caution appears to reflect concerns over inflation, slowing growth, and heightened uncertainty surrounding geopolitical risks and exchange rate instability. The central bank is also expected to release updated growth and inflation forecasts later in the day. Now, for more on the Bank of Korea's latest rate decision, we're joined today by Professor Song Soo-young, professor at the College of Business and Economics at Chungang University. Professor Song, thanks for coming on today.
Good morning to you, and thank you for inviting me.
So this is the central bank's first rate-setting meeting under its new governor, Shin Yeon-sung, since he took office last month. What are your thoughts on today's decision?
I think the current decision made immediately just a moment ago is a very expected one and anticipated one, and also considering the current situation, how the Middle East crisis will be played out in the future, and also considering the Korean economic situation in light of some K-type recovery or performance of the economy, even though we have witnessed a very high performance of the KOSPI and the stock market, and the asset market is working very well. But however, there is a clear divergence within the labor market. And so considering that situation, the current choice of the freeze of the 2.5% rate is a very necessary choice. And also considering the general tendency of some countries who have suffered some energy shortage has shown some increased cycle of the government interest rate. However, some other countries such as Mexico and some who has already higher level of interest rate, they have shown the decrease of the interest rate. So depending upon each different country's specific economic situation, the central bank must choose the interest rate discretionary, considering the economic situation they face.
All right, and some analysts say stronger than expected growth and persistent inflation risks could ultimately lead the Bank of Korea into a full-fledged cycle of hikes beginning later this year. What's your take on this?
I don't think this is going to be all the countries simultaneously increase the high cycle, because, as I mentioned earlier, different country has different situation. Because this Middle East war crisis is very volatile, but however, it should be contained. And also, the United States and Trump and Iran is going to they are going to make a deal of some peace deal in whatever form. So, but however, what we should be cautious about the wage change in the country, in the different countries, and some people's expectation of the inflation pressure, and then particularly the supply side, the pricing behavior would matter very much over the following several months, the inflationary movement. So I strongly would like to urge the Bank of Korea, they should have taken into account of the labor market situation, particularly because current situation, unemployment rate Korea is relatively low, 2.8% or something, but vacancy rate is also rising. So therefore, as a result, then this is a very divergent situation in the labor market, who had shown earning very much, and on the other hand, the low and the middle income, they feel the strain of the economic situation right now.
Right, and in the stock market, Korean stocks continue to soar, and SK Hynix actually became the second Korean company to pass $1 trillion in market cap following Samsung Electronics. This makes South Korea the only country other than the United States with at least two companies in the $1 trillion club, right? What significance does this carry?
Yeah, clearly this is a good news for the South Korean overall economy, and we have achieved $1 trillion value the companies in the world. Actually, the other country who has this $1 trillion value company is Saudi Arabia, Aramco, and the other one is TSMC in Taiwan. Most of the other 10 companies, including Tesla and the other Nvidia, belong to United States. So this is good news. However, what we must take into account is our economy, the size and the population and the total economy size is in comparison to some big countries and some advanced countries, such as considering the European Union, still we relatively we are smaller than those countries' economic situation. So we should not be too elated about this achievement, because this is a very, maybe end up with a very temporary and transient situation, because this is only depends upon some very good performance in the semiconductor industry, and then long-term demand for some DRAM and some HBM, such as some supply shortage of the memory is really is a good situation for the two Samsung and the SK Hynix. However, we must be very cautious to take care of some bottom side and middle side, middle position or people in our economy.
Right, and Korea's biggest company by market cap, Samsung Electronics, averted a strike this week that threatened to impact the entire Korean economy after unionized workers voted yesterday to approve a wage deal, right? But the union remains largely divided over pay gaps between business divisions. What do you think are the remaining risks?
I believe because anyway, the deal was made, and so this actually stops some 18 days potential strike for Samsung Electronics. But however, we have seen there's some huge increase, a surge of the profitability of Samsung and SK Hynix. Particularly, this strike occurs because of some disparity between the Samsung and SK Hynix wage over the particular about some bonuses related with linked with some performance of those companies. So even though some other big companies and the unions consider some new negotiation and the wage increase, but this cannot be spread out all over the economy. So considering the situation, this I expect is going to be some transient and a temporary situation. So I do not much concerned about the wage setting problem. Rather than what I'm most concerned is this kind of the hike of the wage does not guarantee the permanent increase of income. So I don't think the overall demand will be increased to threaten the runaway inflation to follow in the next several months. Therefore, I strongly urge the Bank of Korea should be cautious. Even though the other countries tend to increase the interest rate, they should remain calm and then take care of the labor market situation and then to take care of the increased some growth rate for the economy. That is a very important lesson to be learned from this recent happening in the Samsung Union.
I see. All right, Professor Song, thank you so much for your time and insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Early voting for Korea's June 3rd local elections and parliamentary by-elections begins Friday and will continue for 2 days nationwide. Eligible voters can cast their ballots at any early voting station across the country, regardless of where they're registered, with polling stations operating from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The National Election Commission says polling station locations can be checked on its website and major online portal sites. Voters must bring a valid photo ID showing their date of birth, including a resident registration card, passport, or driver's license. Officials also noted that screenshots or saved images of mobile IDs will not be accepted, and voters must open the official app on site for verification. And Korea moves into a 6-day polling blackout period today, barring the release of new election surveys ahead of voting day. Our An Sung-jin breaks down what the latest polls reveal about voter sentiment.
With just days to go before Korea's local elections, we now enter a polling blackout. Starting from May 28th, publishing or quoting new opinion polls is strictly banned. Now, this is done to ensure a fair race. But before that, let's turn to some poll figures in key battlegrounds as we look at some razor-thin margins. Now, for this whole mayoral race, the ruling Democratic Party candidate Chung Won-ho leads at 42%, with the main opposition People Power Party's incumbent mayor Oh Se-hoon chasing at 36%. The 6 percentage point gap sits tightly within the margin of error. Crucially, nearly 20% of voters remain undecided, meaning these fence-sitters may decide the capital. Now let's turn to Daegu, another fierce battleground. The TP's Kim Bu-kyum holds 42%, while the PPP's Chu Kyung-ho is right on his heels at 38%. Again, an 18% undecided bloc keeps this race entirely up for grabs. Meanwhile, the story changes in Busan. The TP's Jeon Jae-soo has secured an outside-the-margin lead at 46%, comfortably ahead of the PPP's Park Hyung-jun at 34%. Candidates have just under a week left to win over a massive chunk of undecided voters, but why do these polls matter so much? Historically, final pre-blackout polls have accurately mirrored the final results. Take the 2022 Seoul mayoral race, where the PPP's Oh Se-un cruised to a 20 percentage point victory, which almost exactly matched the final polls. The story was the same in 2018 when the DP's Park Won-soon won by nearly 30 percentage points. But polls aren't always a crystal ball, and that is why attention is focused on winning over voters. For these local elections, the mayoral races, alongside high-stakes parliamentary by-elections in Pyeongtaek and Busan Bukgap, are sitting well within the margin of error. Predicting this election is uniquely difficult, as following the former president's impeachment, independent and moderate voters have surged. Shy voters who hide their true leanings from polls may also emerge as a key variable. The 6-day blackout aims to prevent inaccurate polls from unfairly swaying voters. All eyes are now glued to how public sentiment will shift during this blackout period to influence next week's ballot box.
Good morning, I'm Choo Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. As the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo passes 220 suspected deaths and 900 cases, the United States said on Wednesday that it will not allow any Ebola cases to enter the country. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Trump's cabinet meeting the administration's goal was to contain Ebola to the outbreak region, adding, quote, "We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States." The U.S. is in talks with Kenya over opening a quarantine facility there for exposed American citizens. Public health experts questioned the approach, saying patients would be better treated at specialized infectious disease centers in the U.S. or Germany. The U.S. has also imposed 30-day entry restrictions on travelers from Congo, Uganda, and South Sudan, and is screening Americans at 3 airports. Nvidia will spend around $150 billion a year in Taiwan. The tech giant's CEO Jensen Huang announced the investment on Wednesday, calling the island the epicenter of the global artificial intelligence revolution, and saying that Taiwan will remain the world's technology manufacturing hub for a long time. Huang made the announcement in Taipei at a celebration for the chipmaker's planned Taiwan headquarters, which will break ground this year and be operational by 2030 with 4,000 employees. The facility deepens Nvidia's ties with TSMC, the world's largest contract chipmaker that produces the advanced semiconductors powering AI. Nvidia became the first company to reach $5 trillion in market value late last year, and Huang said it will be worth even more in 3 to 5 years. In the U.S., New York and New Jersey have launched a formal investigation into FIFA's World Cup ticketing practices. The attorneys general issued a subpoena on Wednesday demanding details on how tickets were priced and allocated. The 2 states are focusing on 8 matches in New Jersey, including the World Cup final, after fans reported receiving seats in lower categories than they paid for. The investigation also covers what critics have called extortionary high ticket prices. FIFA is using dynamic pricing for the first time this year, allowing costs to fluctuate based on demand. The tournament begins June 11th across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. In Laos, 5 people were rescued from a cave on Wednesday after being trapped inside for around a week. Rescuers are still searching for 2 others. The 7 Lao nationals had entered the cave in Saizonbun province to look for gold deposits and wildlife before heavy rain and a landslide blocked their exit. A Thai rescue team, including a diver who participated in the 2018 Thailand cave rescue, joined the operation on Sunday. Videos posted on social media showed the 5 survivors in good spirits, raising their arms and smiling.
Cloudy skies have been sticking around for several days now, and today starting much the same way. Spotty rain is still falling in parts of the Jeollado provinces and parts of the capital region this morning. In most areas, we'll be seeing about 5 millimeters or less before letting up by the afternoon. And it will be sunny and warm on the way back home this evening. So once the clouds move out, sunshine will quickly return, and so will the heat. Seoul will be getting up to 27 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Busan will be topping out at 28 degrees. Humidity levels will remain fairly high, so even though temperatures are close to seasonal norms, it may feel a bit muggy outside. Meanwhile, winds will get stronger as the day goes on. Looking ahead, skies will turn much sunnier through the weekend and temperatures will rise quickly again. By Sunday, Seoul could once again reach around 30 degrees under strong early summer sunshine.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.